What is going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning back in for another video. Today we're going to be discussing what kind of intake I run on my 3.7 liter 2008 Jeep Grand Cherokee. You can also do the same setup on the Liberties, the older Liberties, and on a Commander. They both have the same basically style of 3.7 liter V6 engine. So this makes, I would say, probably about 10 horsepower and 10 torque, and I'm all in at about $15. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about buying a specific intake for this motor. You'll see that what I did, I'm not using a whole new intake, I'm just solving the problem that the intake had. I'll get into that in a second once I pop open the hood here. So sorry for the dirt, I clean this quite often actually. So most intakes that you can buy, it is a curved metal pipe that essentially replaces this, and then it's a standalone K&N style filter that would sit here. But a lot of people have problems with that. For one, if it's just sitting here, it's going to constantly keep sucking in the hot air from the engine bay. It doesn't actually get cool air, whereas the stock factory box has this lower portion. And then up here you can see this piece of plastic here. There's kind of like an edge down there. What it does is it sucks air up through there, routes it through this pipe right here, and then sends it into the box. So what this does is, if you do use your vehicle for off-roading, which as you can tell by the amount of dirt that's accumulated in here in such a short amount of time, I do, with all this open area underneath here, water and mud comes up into the engine bay, and if you have a standalone filter and you go through a large puddle, it will suck that water into your motor. So that's the main reason why I didn't decide to go with a standalone filter here. Instead, I decided to retrofit the existing intake. This box, really, the amount of power that you would make by having just a standalone filter, it would essentially just even itself out compared to this, because it would be sucking in all the hot air from the engine bay. So what I decided to do is, I'll put in a quick clip here in a second of the box that used to sit here. It says 3.7 liter on it, and you'll see what's wrong with that box specifically and all the problems that it creates for airflow coming through the intake. So I was looking at this piece of intake piping and I was trying to figure out how to remove the mass airflow sensor. But if you look inside of here, you can see that there's like cutouts in the tube that go into these into these parts. You can see like the piece that connects there. So this must be some sort of like quieting system, I would assume. There's like the big piece right here. That's where, if you look inside, you can see that takes up like a ton of room. So like your airflow that's coming in isn't direct. I kind of wonder like what that does to the mass airflow sensor, because your air isn't coming, like, it's not coming straight through this pipe. It's like coming here and then going out sideways, and then even if it does go straight forward, it's gonna go right into this huge section here, and it's gonna just kind of like bounce around and then eventually make its way out. So if you know like anything about aerodynamics, it's like the worst possible scenario you can have for airflow. So I hope that helped clear things up a little bit. As you saw, you know, when the air comes through, the air essentially doesn't go directly into the intake. It gets kind of bounced around into that box, which works with noise reduction, but it also saps a lot of your power because all this airflow isn't going straight into the intake. So what I did was I found some piping that was the same size as this. I believe it's 3-inch piping. It's been a couple months since I've done this, but I've got just a straight piece here. I've got a 90-degree elbow, and then just 2 rubber couplers. What you do have to do though, as you saw with the mass airflow sensor, is that there is no place for it, obviously, in a piece of tube. I've got mine tucked away pretty good in there. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it. Yeah, you can see it right there. It is this sensor right there. What I ended up doing is using a hole saw and just drilling into the piping, and then the rubber grommet that comes with the stock factory intake, I just used that to place the sensor in there. While you're at it, I would probably replace that mass airflow sensor. Mine has almost 220,000 miles on it, so that might be something I add to the list of things to do. But this solves the main problems of airflow going into your engine, which I did this mod with other things at the same time, and it made my Jeep, I would say all the mods combined, it made my Jeep about 30% louder than it was before. So definitely factor that in. I would probably do these before doing an exhaust. An exhaust would obviously be quite a bit more costly than this is. This is a straight piece, a turn, and 2 rubber couplers. So it's not really rocket science, but it does a really good job. I haven't had any issues with it. I've gone off-roading, so banging off the rev limiter. I haven't had any of the clamps come undone or loose. They're all sealed up very nicely. So I think this is definitely a great option. Instead of paying, I think you can pay anywhere from $60 to probably $400 for an intake that's not going to make much more power. This is definitely a great alternative, especially if you're handy with a screwdriver and you don't really mind working on vehicles and taking them apart. So that's what I did. That's how I made significantly more power. And then obviously with more mods added onto that, it will definitely make a huge difference. So if you guys learned anything from this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, drop a comment. I might be able to put in the description specifically the parts that I use. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find them online anywhere. But if you guys do want to do a setup like this, definitely leave a comment or shoot me a DM. I can help you talk through all the things that I did. It's obviously not super complicated, but it's definitely worth the $15 for your power returns. You'll also probably gain better fuel mileage at the same time. I did other mods which ended up decreasing my fuel mileage, but you win some and you lose some. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and have a good day.